Welcome to the Social for Brokers podcast. Now, today I have with me a guest that I know a lot of people will have been waiting for. So it's somebody who has been a huge inspiration to many in the industry, especially in the primist circles. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll probably have already seen his face, a very recognizable face. It's Richard Coulson. Now, we're honored to have somebody on the podcast who's hugely respected by so many. And as he's now changed roles, he's now helping businesses, obviously in the FS sector, and beyond as well, which we spoke about before. They're taking their businesses to the next level from doing £1 million a year and beyond. So, Richard, I'm very much looking forward to chatting everything mindset, business, best practices. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Chris. I'm looking forward to it. It can go anywhere. We'll have a good crack. I'll guarantee you one thing, we'll have a good crack.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. And I've never actually said this on the podcast, but I drink a lot of tea. So if you hear me slurping down the mic, it's not the sound, it's me drinking tea, just in case you're listening in, guys. Right then. So, Richard, first things first, for anybody that doesn't know you, tell us a bit about your background, what you've done, where you've been, and how you've got to where you are today.
In the industry, yeah?
Yep, in the industry.
Yeah. Started in 1986. Yep.
Before I was on this planet, yeah.
Before a lot of you on the Zoom were probably on the planet, like, and our technology was like a Singer sewing machine where you clip the keyboard off the bottom. Honestly, no word of a lie.
Really?
Yeah. So I started with Allied Dunbar, which were affectionately known in the industry at the time as Allied Crowbar, because we talked about things that people didn't want to talk about, i.e. death, getting sick, disabled, horrible things. Mm-hmm. But that's never changed. So I got a really good schooling in Dunbar. They taught me how to be a good leader as well, or they put me on the way. And then they got bought by Zurich. Then all the corporate nonsense came in, and PLCs and people trying to direct you that didn't know what they were talking about. So within Zurich, which was called Zurich Advice Network, I then created what was called Zurich Mortgage Network, which was a simple and effective means for a mortgage broker to do the mortgage, the protection, and the GI. And we called it ETI, really revolutionary. And we ended up with about 1,000 in there. And that was great fun.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bit like, like the bloke that led the Polish shipyard revolt, Lech Wałęsa. I was a bit like their hero, because Zurich wanted to shove them down a route of like pensions, investments, and hoity-toityness. Mm-hmm. And the guys didn't need that. They were a mortgage and protection animal is a different animal. Mm-hmm. So we graduated through there. Then the chief exec of Zurich Advice Network retired. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, "Look, Rich, do you still want to do your own mortgage network? Because I've got a few quid from the city." And I'm like, "What?" So we got a few quid from the city, and we started off the business that was called Home of Choice in 2005. And the vision for Home of Choice was that it would be the biggest and best mortgage network in the UK, mortgage and protection network in the UK. And with an aspirational figure of doing 1 in 10 of all UK mortgages. And
wow.
Yeah. And then secretly a figure in my head of like 1 in 5 protection cases, but you can't measure that because those stats aren't there. Anyway, mm-hmm. So off we trotted. We rebranded as First Complete. And then we started taking over like PTFS and Pink and all these other mortgage networks. And we rebranded the whole thing as Primus. And that's where I spent my last few years, growing Primus into being the best mortgage and protection network in the UK. That's not me blowing my own trumpet. That's what the providers told us. That we were like light years ahead of everybody else, particularly on protection, and particularly on having a bit of crack with the brokers, because I'm a great believer if you have a bit of crack and people are happy, they'll do more business instead of corporate idiots who try and scare them. Mm-hmm. So, and then in March of this year, I decided I was sick of getting boiled up in corporate treacle, and decided that I'd had enough, and I'd done my bit. I'd created hundreds of millionaires and changed hundreds of people's lives, and they're all my friends, and they all text me warmly every day. And I thought, well, I'll do a bit, and I'll go on my own. And my hardest job's saying no to people. And I work 3 days a week. I do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which apparently means I'm a twat. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. In case anyone thinks I'm swearing.
Right, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And I'm a happy twat. So it's great, and that's where I am today. That's me being very successful, because I was a broker and I understand brokers. I have sold, I've been on client settings and boardrooms, and my job was to sort of be the leader of the brokers, as it were. And then the beginning of this year, I thought, well, I've run out of gas. I'm fighting too many battles. I'll do my own thing now, and it's lovely. I really enjoy it, and yeah, it's grand.
Awesome. That's quite a background, and it's quite interesting to see where you obviously had that fire in your belly in Zurich to create that mortgage network, then were given that opportunity to create it. And we're going to get into a few things today about how you've made so many successful brokers, and this episode is going to be full of so many tips. I don't really like the word tricks because it seems a bit underhanded. Tips, strategies, and best practices to really take your business to the next level. What's interesting is you talking about Primis and having a lot of respect for people and vice versa. When we were at the Primis Do, one of our questions that we asked on the interviews was, who's the one person in the industry that inspires you? And I would probably say 70% of the people said Richard Coulson. So it just goes to show, as you say, you're not blowing your own trumpet here. Oh. These are things that people are saying about you. And you built that culture within Primis. And obviously hired the right principals.
I didn't know that. That's really nice.
So many. And then the other thing I want to get into, which is, and I know one of your great believers, Lee Flanagan, is big on this, is you talking about the reason that you think you're so successful, and I agree with this, is you were a broker before a coach.
Yeah.
And it's this thing about how can you coach somebody in something if you haven't got the experience of doing it yourself?
I agree.
It'd be interesting to get into that as well. Yeah. So give us some examples now. So you've moved into your own business. You're now coaching people and helping them grow. Can you give us some examples of the types of firms you're working with and how you've helped them? Maybe some working examples as well, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got about a dozen firms that I work with on a monthly basis. A few others that I do ad hoc stuff with, but I've got like 12 sort of clients. They range from DAs with sort of 20 or 25 people in that want to grow to 100 plus. Well, I can show them how to do that. Because I've got the scars, because it's very challenging looking after 100, and then 500, then 1,000, and I peaked out at 2,900, and that was challenging. So anybody that wants to grow scale of sellers, show them, and that's a lot of that's about their leadership. I teach them how to be good leaders, but I'm a great believer in you've got to have it in you, and they have, because like I'm in a nice position where I can turn people down, and if I don't like them, I just immediately say no. I don't say I don't tell them I don't like them. I just say, look, I don't think I can help you, and if I don't think there's any potential for them to listen, then I'll say no as well. So the ones I've got, I like, they're great fun, and the different. So I've got ones that want to be like little mini networks or big businesses. Lee's would be a huge business, where we've put systems and processes in there. He has a leadership team, and so I coach the leadership team, because leadership, you don't just lick it off the ground. You've got to learn. I was lucky enough to be taught leadership by Allied Dunbar. They took us away to Dartmoor on an outward bound course for a week and did lots of things to you that you wouldn't be able to do now because of HR bollocks. You sort of, you're in a river that was in flood on the end of a rope, and
really,
all the stuff, like a bit like SAS, but not quite that. And they were looking for the next leaders. Like anybody can be a leader with a textbook. Anybody can read a manual, and I hear all these people now in boardrooms talking about well, we'll just segue into there and we'll do a straw man and all that. Well, no. Okay, how are you going to deal with that? How are you going to deal with telling somebody they're not getting paid tomorrow? So I bring to them practical leadership. I deal with a lot of mortgage firms who were resisting the protection department, and I get right into the ribs and accuse them of not doing a proper job and leaving their clients unprotected, and I give them all sorts of verbal grief. And then I asked him a question. I said, why don't you do it? Why don't you do protection every time? And it's either we don't know how, or it's not into their process. Now, it needs to be in the process now because, you know, the mortgage markets, we'll go on to that later on, but my view is it's knackered for another 12 months. And a lot of estate agents, anybody who's based, their business is based just on new mortgages, not with a huge back book, they'll go out of business next year.
You think, wow.
I know, no, I don't think, I know. Okay. You know what, they could do with getting themselves a Christmas present, you know, a big bottle of Windoline and just windowing the windows because it ain't coming back next year. So I teach people how to bomb-proof themselves with protection. And I give them the concept, Chris, of that their business is a department store. And like the analogy I use is like I live in Newcastle, and one of the treats every Christmas was like mum and dad or Nana and Grandad would take me to Phoenix. That's our department store. And all I wanted to do was go to the toy department. That was it. That was the thrill. Walk up and down Phoenix window, which is a treat, and then go to the toy department and get me toy and come home and wait for Santa to do all that, right? So everybody's financial service department is the same as Phoenix, because the only product that people want to walk into your store and buy is a toy, i.e. a mortgage or a house. They don't walk in and say, I want some life insurance. They don't walk in and say, I want some critical illness. By the way, can I have an income protection plan? Because I'm only going to be on £109.40 a week if I'm off sick. By the way, can I have a will? Can you put me policies in trust? And can I have some buildings and contents? They never come in the shop for that. They only come in the shop for
the mortgage.
Yeah. And a lot of mortgage brokers, leading up to up till the last 12 months, you know, it was boom time again, wasn't it? Every time you rang a 2-year fixed up for the review, it was great news. You'd save them 200 quid. Now they've actually got to work for a living and tell them it's an extra 500 quid, you know. And there's
how to have those conversations, Richard. Yeah. That's what you're saying.
It's how to have those conversations. So I teach people that, like, however you bring somebody into your department store, you need a process that tells them about all the other departments in the store. Because if you let me just walk out with a toy, then Phoenix would have gone bust. But to get the Phoenix toy department was on the top floor in the far corner. So you had to go three escalators, go past every special offer in every other department, and hopefully they sold you something else. And that's the concept that I talk to my customers about. And I say, look, you need to have product density of a minimum of 5. You need a minimum of 5 products per customer. If you've just got one product and it's a mortgage, they're not loyal to you. Then you might think they are, but if they're in the between mid-20s and mid-30s, the lender's going to get them before you get them, because the lender wants to pinch the mortgage book that you gave them. And the really simple clients will pinch it. I mean, my brokers are telling me now, I'll not name lenders, obviously, because I'm being professional, but like, you know, they got in there 6 months, 7 months, and it was already done. The lender had done it direct, and that's what's going to happen. So for mortgage brokers, and again, where you need advice is where we can all thrive. So for mortgage brokers, where you should be positioning yourself is where you need advice on a mortgage, i.e. self-employed, limited company directors, you know, first-time buyers, buy-to-let, high-rate taxpayers, people with split income like GPs who also have non-NHS earnings. They're the ones where they'll always need advice, where we have to create, you know, and show them. Where it's Mr. and Mrs. Normal, am I allowed to say Mr. and Mrs.? Where it's normal couple, right?
Yeah.
Doing a normal mortgage, and they're both a couple of employees, and they've already got the Santander app or the Halifax app. They want to do it direct with them. So you've got to get in there before the lender nicks it, and then tell them about all your other departments.
And I suppose you talking about that product density, Richard, is you're making that client more sticky, I suppose. If they've got those 5 products, they've got to speak to you about their 5 products. So it's they're much more likely to come back to you to speak about their mortgage because they have 4 of the products with you.
Correct. You have to become the Phoenix for financial services for your client, where they come to you for everything. Where they think money, they come to you, not just the mortgage. The mortgage client will bugger off, the lender will nick it. But if you've got their buildings and contents, you've got to contact them every year. And I hear the argument from brokers, I don't want to earn much money. Shut up. Just do it.
It's not about that.
No, it's about client loyalty and product density, and it's like it's ring fencing your client bank. A lot of mortgage brokers, well, before I get at them, they think protection is just mortgage protection, and I say no, 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 that's nonsense. That's just part of your job. So I teach them how to do proper protection. Like, what income will your missus need if you're dead? Yeah, we've paid your debts off, but how much will she need? I talk to them about what happens when you get cancer. You know, you're self-employed. You can't go to work tomorrow. When do your bills stop? Sorry, when does your money stop? Straight away. When do your bills stop? Well, they never do. Well, what are you going to do? So I have the horrible conversations. I teach my brokers to put the stuff in trust for a client, consumer duty all day, right? And then what we're massive on now is wills. So if you've got the mortgage, the B and C, the mortgage protection, the family protection, the income protection, the policies are in trust, and you've got the will, they ain't going anywhere. They ain't going anywhere. So that's what I teach is product density.
What's your thoughts around when you talk about coming to you for financial needs?
Yeah.
Is there any opportunity for these mortgage brokers to team up with pension advisors, IFAs? What's your stance on that?
Yeah, most definitely. A lot of the guys that I work with, they work with an IFA or an SJP person, because the IFAs or the SJP, they don't want to do the mortgage. And they're not interested in protection. They're just interested in funds under management and all that. So a nice little link where you can pass business both ways. So you can pass them pension and investment clients for them to do their bit on. They pass you their mortgage and protection for you to do your bit on. Both clients, both parties get looked after, and the client gets a proper job. I'm all for that, because to have a wealth management business and a mortgage business and a protection business, it's really hard. It's a rare beast that can run that. So I think it's a great idea to have that.
Great idea to team up with somebody like that.
Massive, yeah.
Okay, so talking about all these different products that we can team up with people on, can you give us some examples of clients that you work with now or you work with in the past, and how you've helped their business figures? Do you know what I mean? The cold hard facts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, Heron would be a prime example, which is Matthew's business. I know you work with Matthew as well. So when Matthew and Warren kicked off Heron, they were like prolific at mortgages and all right at protection. And then just taking them to, I don't really want to give their figures away, but
no.
where you get a business. I work on the basis for every 100 grand of lending that you do, you should do 40 quid a month of protection premium.
Okay, so, that's a great goal for lots of people to achieve, to target.
Yeah, and that's what I work on with my clients. So like if you're doing £1 million, then you should be doing 400 quid a month of premium. If you're doing 10 million quid a month, you should be doing 4 grand. If you're doing 100 million a month, you should be doing £40,000 a month of protection. And a lot of my clients now are on that run rate, because we've built a process in that protection is discussed right at the outset, not at the end, not when they get their offer letter and all that nonsense, right at the beginning.
That's a really interesting thing. And I'm going back to that Phoenix analogy where the toys are at the back and all your processes are signposting all the products leading up to that toy store. It's like the supermarkets putting milk at the back. They'll then put the special offers at the front to entice you in and pick up those different products. So before we get into the business planning section, because we're going to talk about how important it actually is, I think one of the questions I'd love to ask you is, what do you think is going to happen with the mortgage market? And then I think it'd be great to talk about how somebody can business plan for those next 24 months.
Yeah, I've great question, and obviously I knew it in advance. So I've had a real good think about this now, and I've asked around, read stuff, and because one of the good things about what I do now is I can keep up to date with everything. So this is my view. So my view is that we're in for a torrid time throughout 2024. I have some clients now who are estate agents where basically it's stopped for this year. It's stopped. And no matter what they do, they can't make anybody buy or sell a house. Now, that ain't going to continue. Sorry, that is going to continue into January, because God bless, there's a lot of people out there who are skint. And, they won't do without Santa. But Santa will be coming via Barclaycard, American Express, and MasterCard. They'll have to pay that bill at the end of Jan, and they'll be really struggling. So there's no light at the end of the tunnel imminently. I think if your only source of business is new mortgages, then I think you're going to really struggle unless you diversify. I think if you've got a big client bank that you've been working and you do your remos and your PTs, I think that will help you survive right throughout 2024. What do I think is going to happen in 2024? I think we've peaked now. There was a big bond issue from the government a few weeks ago, and it was oversubscribed. That basically means that the people in the world with like zillions are taking a punt that our economy, that interest rates have peaked. So they all jumped in. So and it was oversubscribed. So that's telling me that they think our interest rates are only going to go down. Now they ain't going to go down as rapidly as they went up, and it's not going to get out of control because there's an election looming. Again, this is just my view.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you might get a couple of, if we get another interest rate hold, which I think we will, then the only way they're going to go is down, and we might get 1 or 2 or 3 little drops throughout next year, because the Tories want to try and win the election, right? Global inflation is under control, which is good. You saw that the inflation in the UK is coming down to manageable levels. A lot of people have now got pay rises way in excess of inflation. So there's a few more quid in certain. Yeah. So I think there might be another hold or another couple of holds, and then we might see 2 or 3 little drops next year. But each of those little drops gives consumer confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they think again about buying or selling a house.
Yes.
Yeah. It gives them that little kicker. Whatever people's political persuasion is, the Labour Party are going to get in, and their pledge is to build 400,000 new houses a year for 5 years when they get in.
Wow.
So my understanding is they've spoken to the builders to say, what do you need? Mm-hmm. They've spoken to the mortgage lenders to say, what do we need to do to help you guys? And they've spoken to the CBI to say, look, what do we need to do to make you confident that we're not going to tax you out of Britain and go and set up in Ireland, whatever. So they've done the homework, and there's going to be, I think from 2025, when the election happens, I think that the mortgage market will absolutely boom again. So I think good mortgage brokers have got to hold their breath and get through the next 15 months to whenever because the Tories will do the election at the latest possible point, because if they did it now, it's suicide. And I think that will give us an absolute boom through 25 through to 28. So there'll never be a better time to be a mortgage broker, but the mortgage and protection broker will always be better, because what you'll get in 2025 is you'll get the daft mortgage brokers, and a lot of them are my friends, by the way, and I take the mick out of them, who say, well, Rich, I'm too busy. Well, at the minute, I'm just saying, you're too stupid. Because you used to say you were too busy. You're not busy now, because nobody's buying and selling houses. So give your head a shake. New build, it's not booming like it was. So all the good habits that you learn in a recession or in a tough market, proper businesses keep them going in a booming market.
Yep.
Stupid idiots stop doing it because they think they've got a queue of mortgages again.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do, I say, look, stop. Whatever your lead generation source is, you do a proper job for your clients. Mm-hmm. Tell them about all the departments in the shop, not just the one that they want. And then they get it. So my 12 clients get it. And
I like the analogy of that, the shop, Richard. I think it's so easy for us to visualize. I think it's so much easier for us to talk about those type of things. So what you're saying, 2024 is going to be a tough year. How important is business planning for next year then?
Massive. It's massive. And what you've got to do in your business planning is you've got to work on your process. Because if your process was just built on waiting for the new mortgage phone to ring, it ain't going to ring. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that all your existing account holders for your shop find out about everything else in your shop, because you never told them the first time. So it's about contacting your existing client bank with a process. And then it's about the new inquiries that do come in, that you make sure that they don't just go straight to the toy department and walk out. They find out about all the other things that you do. So business planning is essential. And you have to break it down, and this is where my clients, I really annoy them, into a daily plan.
Okay.
You have to know how many appointments your business has to make every day. How many, what protection premium you've got to make that day. And here's the rub. How many referrals, i.e. new clients, is your business going to get that day? That's your business plan. Because I'm a great believer in, I mean, one of the things I did learn from some of these like people who, you know, they sit around board tables now and they just quote at you like a PhD in management and all that bollocks, right? Is that you can only control the controllable. But you can't control inflation. You can't control interest rates. You can't control the government. And you can't control people's ability and worrying or not whether they buy a house. You can't. So just forget about that. What you can control is what you say to them and how you help them. So get good at the things that you can control, i.e. protection, family protection, income protection, cancer protection, putting policies in trust, doing their will, building and connect. You can control all that. So your business plan needs to be built on that. And then another tip, because in the business plan, there's never been a better time to acquire a bigger market share, right? Because next year, a lot of people in this industry will go out of business. Because they're waiting for the phone to ring or they're waiting for a house to sell. It ain't going to happen. There's a time to just say, look, I tell you what, mate, if you want out, we'll take your client bank over. We'll do a deal with you, because they're not going to be there.
Yeah.
So the business plan is one of acquiring market share. Yep.
Yep.
And increasing product density on your existing client bank and getting referrals. That's the three-pronged attack. And it works.
And obviously, marketing forms a part of that. We're not here to talk about marketing, so I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of it. But an example of Kellogg's. So what they did is years and years ago, there was another cereal brand that was huge. They advertised everywhere. They were number one. And what happened during a downtime in the market, I think it was a recession, this company pulled out of the advertising in one of the main newspapers. And what Kellogg's said was, instead of us sitting back, we're going to try and take market share and invest in our marketing, our staff, marketed in the paper. And now look at them. Even 100 years later, they're still number one in the cereal. And that's where it's good, because we're going to talk about mindset shortly, but having that mindset to think, yes, it is going to be tough. But with the right things that Richard's talking about, the business planning, making sure that you're talking about all your products, signposting that journey will help you actually make 2025 an even stronger year than 2023.
Exactly. Like some of these mortgage brokers nowadays, probably your age as well, Chris, right? You don't know you're born, right? I was around when the Chancellor of the Exchequer put interest rates up to 17%.
Gosh.
Yeah, gosh, yeah. Golly gosh. In fact, if you've been down south, that's a real golly gosh. I didn't say golly gosh when I got my statement in. It was something like WTF. But anyway, by the by, right? They don't know they're born. They also don't know they're born, because all they've ever had to do is ring the client up at the end of 2 years and say, oh, great news, I've saved you 100 quid. Well, anybody can do it. My mum can do that, but she couldn't because she's dead. Anybody can do that, right? They've had to work for a living over the last 12 months, and they don't like it, half of them.
It's tough. I think when you're used to, as you said, order taking instead of selling. Yeah.
Right. There's two types of people, and some of my primest friends will be laughing hearing this. You're either an order taker or you're an order creator, right?
Nice.
Order creators make loads more money than order takers, especially when there's no orders. And that's what I drop to my clients. All of my clients are growing.
Okay, so could you give us a little tip without giving away all your secrets? How can somebody generate new business?
Oh, man. You mean like generate new clients?
New clients, yeah. Because we've talked about how to treat the clients when they walk through the door, the theoretical door. But how do you generate new ones?
Depends what type of new ones you want. Depends what you want.
So we talk remortgage, more remortgage business.
So you're acquiring a new client. You're after a new client, yeah? Go to all your existing clients and offer them a client incentive scheme of 100 quid or 150 quid each for each new client they introduce who does business. Sky Telly doubled their subscription in 1 year when they bribed every existing Sky customer with 100 quid to find a new one. So if you want to like help people through the credit crunch and all that, give them 100 quid or 150 quid to introduce to you somebody who's going to walk into your shop and you can have a look at every department. Because it that's what you do. I'll give you a few tips, because 90% of you people won't do it. Oh, I've tried that, it doesn't work. Well, good luck. go and open an estate agent and buy some windowing. Sorry, I'm getting passionate.
Love it.
Okay, if you want self-employed people, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll go and approach a bookkeeper or an accountant and do a deal. Make him an introducer. What's he got? A client bank full of self-employed people. What have they got in the way of a protection portfolio? Nothing. What are they making? Loads of money. Because when people aren't selling houses, they're doing them up. So
very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm full of good points, mate.
But it sounds, and I don't mean this, it's not derogatory whatsoever. It sounds so simple. Yeah. When you actually talk to somebody about it, it makes sense.
Yeah. Because like you try and get an electrician, a joiner, a roofer, a painter, a plasterer, you can't get them. And if you can, they double what they charged you 2 years ago. Right? How do you get to them? Through a bookkeeper, through an accountant, through a recruitment agency, through anybody who's an influencer. What you've got to do now is get new clients. I mean, a couple of my clients, they buy leads, but they don't just buy these stupid leads. Oh, it's exclusive, and and then you find out they share them with 4 other brokers, right?
Yeah.
With AI and all this, you can actually pinpoint in what you're buying, and you'll pay a lot of money for it. But if you know your average case size is £2,000, and you're going to spend 200 quid on a lead, you're going to do it, aren't you?
You've got to have that confidence up front, haven't you, Richard, to say, right, I know if somebody walks through that door, I have got the skill set to make sure their package is worth £2,000. So I don't mind spending 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 quid on a lead.
Correct.
It's not just the £2,000 now, it's the £2,000 in 4 years' time, and 4 years. Got to see it as an investment.
I mean, other ways you do it, I know you work with Kate McTurnan, superstar. I work with her when she can sit still. She's brilliant at social media. I'm useless at it. I'm not even on LinkedIn, man. I wouldn't know where to start.
But you've got a full book of clients without being on social media.
Exactly.
I mean, you're not in a position where you need to advertise for the business.
But you can help people generate new clients through social media, can't you? I wouldn't know where to start, mate. I can just do it old school. And old school is I need to have a power hour every day where I'm phoning people up every day. So therefore, to phone them up, I need a list. When I've got a list, I need a script. And then I need to put a do not disturb sticker on me back and make some phone calls. That's how you make money in a shit market and in a good market. And that's where you find new clients, honestly.
And I think during a good market, and I'm very guilty of it as well, during a good market, you're thinking it will last forever. So you're not having to prospect for new clients, Richard. Whereas now, it's a tougher market. So you should be consistent throughout. I think that's what I'm trying to say there.
My clients are all making more money, which means they can invest if they want to. They can knock out the competition if they want to, because they're controlling the controllable, and they're not just waiting for a mortgage order. They're making more money. Some of them are trebling their bank accounts. It's fantastic.
Nice. And if somebody does want to work with you, Richard, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Well, I haven't got a website. I'm not on LinkedIn. I don't know. Just put me. That's me brand, and you've got me phone number and all. I've got a phone number. If you want to ring us. So if you're a £1 million business, or you're an aspirational £1 million business, and you want somebody to come in and give you some real honest feedback, because I'm not diplomatic, I'm honest, and show you how to build a 3, 4, 5. I mean, Leeds business this year will be 8 million. Matthews will be, getting towards that figure. And I met these kids when they were in their nappies. Some of your other clients, you met a 313, and the lads in there, they all started with nothing. And I've showed them all how to build multi-million pound businesses.
Awesome.
A lot of it's in their attitude as well. They've got to want to learn. So if you're a mortgage order taker and you don't think your clients need protection, then don't contact me, or we'll fall out. We'll fall out in a millisecond, especially from London. Anyway.
Well, what I'll do is I'll put all Richard's contact details. This isn't the end of the episode, by the way. I'm just making sure people can get in touch with Richard. I'll put all the details in the bottom of the podcast so you can see them. Now, it's quite interesting. You spoke then about some of the people you work with. They've got to have the right mindset, and you will only work with the people that have the right mindset.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen some of your other podcast episodes, and you talk a lot about your mindset and how you've got there, and personal investment as well. So you talked about a Dale Carnegie course and a Tony Robbins course. Can you talk us through those and how they helped you?
Yeah, very much so. The Dale Carnegie course was They called it executive development. So I thought, oh, that sounds good. So I went on that with a load of millionaires from other industries, and it really got my eyes opened. And I was with Zurich at the time. I paid for it myself because they wouldn't pay for it. And I thought, yeah, because I wanted to improve. And what I learned was that you're never too good to learn new skills. And I wanted to be better tomorrow than I was today. I've got this insatiable desire. But on the Dale Carnegie one, it put into practice what you get from that book that's behind you on that shelf. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Right.
Yeah.
Your job as a salesman is to communicate, right, with your customers, and to be able to translate gobbledygook into something that they understand. So your job as a salesperson, and I'm proud to say I'm a salesman. You know, the way the industry's going, oh, it's terrible. You shouldn't mention the word sales. Really? Well, that's what makes the world go around, isn't it? No sales.
It's life, isn't it?
People need to give their heads a shake, man. They don't understand. It's all about risk and nonsense. It's not. It's all about giving good advice and selling. And selling's great fun. And we should still celebrate it instead of, you know, he's doing too much, he must be doing something wrong. Nonsense. So that book that Matthew learned as well when he was a kid, it was on the top of his loo in his bathroom. And he learned how to win friends and influence people. And he is incredibly more successful than I am. He's made many, many more millions than I have. And he's half my age. But he learned
He's an incredible guy. Matt Coulson that runs Heron.
Yeah.
Such a nice guy and very successful.
I am biased, but he's a great kid. Yeah, I'm very proud of him. Very proud. I'll fill up in a minute. But I am. Because he was like the office junior, doing the photocopy and making the coffee and getting shouted at. And now he's a multi-millionaire running a fantastic business, the envy of the industry. And boy, does he still invest. You know, it's nuts what he does. So that book teaches you how to communicate. Robbins, I still do a little bit of Robbins. I went on his course, and some of the stuff he got people to do was like weird, you know, like walking across the red hot coals and all that. But what I learned from Robbins was anything's possible if you want it badly enough, and you give yourself the best chance to get it. That's what I learned from Robbins. And then all the other stuff's like their stuff regurgitated, like Napoleon Hill, all of them. There's always like a new slant, a new book. So I constantly listen to podcasts and audio books and all that lot, because I've got to keep ahead of the game, because you know, I'm a lot older than you, and I have this vision, right, of lying in me coffin just in the creme, and the lid hasn't gone on the coffin yet. My black and white scarf will be on the top ready. And the big fella says to me, he says, "Look, Rich, have you got any regrets?" And I'm going to say, no, none whatsoever. Because life is not a dress rehearsal. So if you're not happy with what you've got, get your finger out. You know, if you're not happy with your bank account, get your finger out. Learn how to make your bank account a lot better. If you're not happy where you work, well, move. If you don't like who you work with, well, just bomb them out. You know, make tough decisions, because when you're dead, you can't make any of them decisions. And because the world we live in is what we make of it. And my glass is always half full. Another criteria for working with me, I will not work with people who have half empty glasses. I will not work with negative people, political people that get on me wick. But luckily now I can just make the choice. And I urge everyone to just invest in personal development, whether it be Carnegie, whether it be Robbins, whether it be whoever these you know who all the modern gurus are. But basically, it's get yourself in a position where you have a can-do attitude. Because with a can-do attitude, it's mint. And like, you might not do it straight away. It doesn't matter. At least you've had a go.
Yeah.
You know, you can always
start the journey.
You can always go back and get like a proper job and somebody make decisions for you and all that nonsense. But like, we weren't put on the planet to do that. You were put on the planet, right? And I learned this throughout my years of getting kicked to shit and, you know, losing things and making mistakes. I've made more mistakes than you have and you'll ever make, all right? But you get the battle scars. And what I've learned is mistakes make you stronger. My daughter plays football at a very high standard. And I say to her, look, Lil, you either win or you learn. You never lose. You never lose. You just learn. And you learn to think, right, how can I make sure that doesn't happen again? And if you have that thirst to continue to improve, your chances of success are pretty high. Pretty high. And that's what I try and drum into people. So, yeah,
I love that. I love that you've invested in yourself and then you
Yeah,
can
you
pass
have to.
that on to other people. We spoke about, before we started the podcast, we were talking about how you get people to believe in themselves. And I suppose that forms part of the answer to this question
Yeah.
is, in your eyes, personally, what makes a successful business owner, not a mortgage advisor, in the mortgage world?
Great question. What I do is when I have my first meeting with them, I say, right, before we do any business, it's important that I find out about you. I want to know what you do when you're not working. I want to know about your family. If you've got a family, I want to know what you do. Where do you live? What do you drive? Where do you go on holiday? What are your hobbies? I need to know the person because, and then what I do is I teach that person how to program himself. So I'll search for what makes them tick.
Okay.
And then I'll play it back to them. I say, look, so you now realize why you do what you do. Oh yeah, I never realized that. Okay. So when you build your goals and your vision board and all this lot, these are your reasons why. Because a lot of these goal setting stuff, they all talk about, well, what do you want? Well, I want a Cartier watch, I want a Porsche, I want a house, I want to turn left on an airplane and all that lot. Oh yeah, great. Write it down, you'll do it. No, you won't. You'll only do it if you find out why you want to do it. So I teach people how to find out their why. And that's the powerhouse. That's the bit that gets the hairs on the back of the neck standing up when they tell people about their goals. Because to me, unless the hairs on the back of your neck are standing up when you read your goals out, you need to redo them because you're not on full throttle. It's like when like Lily plays football. My wife's Irish, Annie's Irish. So she played against Norway in Poland in the Euros.
Wow.
And like hundreds of people in the crowd, and they play the national anthems. Well, so my missus is like in bits, hairs on the back of the neck because they're like the national anthem was playing. So I teach people how to get the national anthem playing for themselves every day. Because when exactly. See, I'm basic, man. When you do that, right, you'll get the best out of yourself. And then when you know how to get the best out of yourself, if you want to build a business, as long as you've got the right process, you can only build a business through the people. What you got to do, you got to care for your people, because if you don't care for your people, that's not right. You shouldn't have a business, right? And then show them how to get the best out of themselves. And honestly, they'll walk through walls for you. I think, hundreds of people who say thank you to me, and I get chuffed when they do. And I've got people who work closely with me who did actually walk through walls for us.
And that's because I think personally, you've got them to believe in themselves by
Correct.
telling them what gets them to tick. And then I suppose if you can get the business owner to find out what makes them tick, they can pass that on to their staff.
Yeah.
But then, and this is probably what you speak to people about, you can then find out what makes your customer tick.
Correct.
Which is right.
Yeah.
So what is it about, you know what I mean, is if you were to fall ill, what's important? That your kids still play football, your kids go on holiday, the mortgage is paid. And it's just that instead of filtering that shit downhill, which happens in a lot of corporate, is filtering that belief downhill.
Yeah. And I did one the other day. It was quite funny, actually. I don't know where it came from, but it hit the spot. So you know that program with Paddy McGuinness, not Top Gear, where unfortunately Freddie got injured. The Take Me Out. Yeah, watch Take Me Out.
Oh yes, yeah.
Right.
The lift.
And that's it. And all them people are getting picked by whatever. And he gets to the end and like the lights go off, don't they? And all them funny noises come on. And he goes, no looky, no likey. And I thought, you know what? Because for me, you can't sell protection without the eyes. So no looky, no likey is my reminder to people that want to be top-notch protection salespeople that you've got to look the client in the eye. Because if we were doing this podcast now, right, and we weren't on a picture, it wouldn't be half as powerful. So my message, and I know there are a lot of protection-only call centers that just use the phone, and they do a great job because at least the client's going to end up with some protection that they wouldn't have. My worry there is that they just buy on price, and when you buy on price, they've been on price. But normal protection, you need the eyes. So we were always taught to sell face-to-face. Brilliant. And we used to go to people's houses. Now, that might not be the right thing to do now, I don't know. But get them to come to your office. Or at worst, get them on a Zoom like this and screen share, because I'm looking at your eyes, you're looking at mine, and we're connecting. If we blanked the screens off, we couldn't connect.
It's
So
not the same as, and I think that's probably stems from the How to Win Friends and Influence People, because it talks a lot about mirroring body language and reading the cues, and that
correct,
makes sales easier.
correct. So you've got order takers, mortgage brokers, right? Who basically need to be a whiz on 27 tech or Trigold and be brilliant at, you know, finding out whether they should do tracker or 2 year and all that. Like, you can do that on the phone. You can do that with email.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to become an order creator, i.e. a personality and emotional connector, you need the eyes. You need the eyes.
And this is really interesting. We watched the Kensington webinar earlier on, and it was talking about AI and how you can integrate AI into business.
Yeah.
It just never replaces that one-on-one personal advice. Yes, you could do a remortgage or an order taker very easily, but do they really buy into you as a company? No. Like Money Supermarket's perfect. When you go to get your car insurance, I've got no loyalty to the people I had last year because I've just done it on a computer.
Yeah.
If I had an insurance broker that did it for me, it's a very different story.
I agree. Did that answer your question?
Sorry?
Did that answer your question?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's talking about those business. We were talking about the belief in people, and then you were talking about that eye to eye. I think that's a huge thing, and exactly the same with management as well. If you were to manage a member of staff, to do it over the phone is very different to in person. Or
you can't do it. You can't. Do it.
It doesn't have the same impact. No. Okay, so you've worked with quite a few companies now that have done that £1 million barrier and beyond. But if there's people listening to this that say, Richard, I want to hit that £1 million barrier first. That's my goal.
Yeah.
What are the biggest struggles that you see people have trying to reach that million?
Letting the new customer know at the very beginning of the process that you're not just a one-trick pony. Okay. So you're not just a mortgage broker. Because unless you tell them about all the other departments in your store, they're going to get the mortgage and walk out. So you have to have in your process, you tell them right up front what you're going to do for them.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And I don't know, very few actually just mortgage only companies that go through the mill. And a lot of either going up or down is because of the market. My companies that I work with, they just grow every month, regardless of the market. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, look, when this market comes back in 2025, a lot of the firms are going to go on massive recruitment drives in the end of 2024 to staff up for the boom, because without anything that we do, we're going to get more traffic. Mm-hmm. But the advice to get to 1 million and beyond, to 5 million, to 10 million, to 20 million, I have one of my clients will do £100,000 a month of premiums. And that there'll be protection brokers on there going like, what? Yeah, £100,000 a month of premium. And that's with a process, with scripts. I don't mean scripts as in a call center. I mean, this is what you say. Mm-hmm. This is how you look after a client correctly. This is how you get a referral. So my advice is graduate from being an order taker, which you're brilliant at, and learn how to be an order creator.
I'm going to make a note of that.
Yeah, and then just follow the process, because the process works.
And the funny thing is, you talking about that, so I'll take you back to the thing you started to talk about, was making sure you tell people you're not just a one-trick pony as a mortgage advisor.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is after you spoke at St. George's, I believe, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had a phone call from one of our clients who we do their booking system. And he said, can you do me a favor on our confirmation email? Yeah. Before we've even talked to them, when they say your appointment is at 10 o'clock on Friday, can you then list all of the other services we can help with? And it's people putting that, and that is somebody I know, and I don't want to mention any names, but I know will go very far because he takes advice like this on board. Yeah. And is showing himself not as a one-trick pony. So
I know who you're talking about, right? And I'm not I'm not naming it. He'll do £1 million.
Mm-hmm. I truly believe it.
Yeah, without a doubt. Because he just listens and learns. Mm-hmm. He's class. He says, Rich, what do I do here? I said, you do that, and that. He says, right, done. And he'll do it. And he'll go, it worked. I said, well, I did tell you.
It's funny, isn't it? You tell people to do stuff when they do it. It's very similar to losing weight, move more and eat less calories. And then after 3 weeks, you go, oh, it actually worked. Yeah. The answer's actually simple. It's the putting it into practice that's the tough part.
Yeah.
because it's going against your beliefs sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot around growing staff. You talk about people growing staff at the end of 2024, putting processes in.
Mhm.
What would you say you should do first? Is it put the processes in and
Mhm.
then look at staff, or is
Yeah.
it hire the staff and then put processes in to teach them?
Processes first.
Okay.
Because
Why?
because if you get the process right and you know it works, then you can get somebody else to do it.
Okay.
That's what you've got to do. And the analogy, I use a football analogy, and it's Pep Guardiola, who's amazing, by the way. He has his process the way they want to play, and then he'd say to his scouts, "Go and find me somebody who can play like that." Because playing
Oh,
like that,
right.
that's what he does. So when he wanted,
Instead of bringing them in and trying to teach them almost.
yeah, so he had a gap for somebody that was an incredibly quick right back who could also tackle and just fill that right back and just maraud up and down that wing. He said, "Go and get me one of them." So they got Kyle Walker.
Because it fit his process that he'd already put in place.
Correct. So if your process is right, the mortgage inquiry comes in, so the mortgage broker shells the P with a mortgage. Then at the very outset, he says, "You're going to get a discussion now with our protection specialist," straight through to the protection specialist. Then you're going to get called every year by the B and C specialist, and then the will writer's going to get at you. So design the process first, get the volume going through, and then when you've got enough volume going through to create the cash flow, fill the vacancy with a proper job. That's how it works. Process.
Okay, so processes first. So talking about building those processes, if you were a brand new mortgage broker, you just started out today, how would you start a new business? And an interesting question I'd like to ask you, what would your morning routine look like as a brand new mortgage broker?
Well, first of all, you need a lead generation.
Okay.
Starting a new business, the one reason that businesses fail, and most businesses fail in the first 12 months, they do, it's because they haven't got enough leads. Where do I get my leads from? So you should only start when you've got your lead generation system sorted. And it's either, where do I get my fishes from? I go out my trawler and they all go in the net. Or how do I teach somebody how to fish? Two different skills. So lead gen first. So once you've got your lead gen system set up, then you need to have a product density target for the business. So any new client that comes in, what's your product density target? So you've got your product density target of, say, 5, which is all right. Client with 5 products with you won't leave normally. Then you need to have a system in place that says, right, from every client, we get at least 1 new client.
Okay.
Ideally 3, but we'll get at least 1. So starting a business from scratch, I would have a referral scheme built in there where I get referrals to either trustees, to executors, to guardians, to the £100 refer a friend scheme. Because if you just sell to that client, where you're going to get your next new one from? So I teach people how to get from 1 to 3. So most of my customers now are getting 3 leads from 1 client because they blow them away with the service, they blow them away with everything, and they build in a process. So what would I do from scratch? I'd build in a referral process right from the very beginning. Okay. I would make annual reviews compulsory. So every client gets an annual review. Now, most mortgage brokers, tongue in cheek, but it's true, they used to just ring their clients up when the 2-year fix was coming off or the 5-year fix was coming off. They didn't do an annual review because they had nothing to do an annual review on. But if you've done a proper protection portfolio for them, you can have a look at that. You can rebalance it. You can redesign it. You can upgrade it because they might have got married. They might have got divorced. They might have had a child. They might have had a wage rise, whatever. So an annual review, compulsory. Well, if you're going to do buildings and contents, it's compulsory. Gone are the days of the renewal letter coming in and they just whack you for another tenner a month. They have to have a conversation now. So build it on in there, and that's what I do. And I'd also think, what's my end game? Because I help people with their end game. I'll say, look, do you want a business that pays you a lot of money while you're sitting on the beach on ongoing income streams, or do you want a business that somebody will buy? And that's what I do for my customers, for my clients. They say, well, actually, Rich, I just want an ongoing income. I want to earn like, I don't know, 20 grand a month, 30 grand a month lying on the beach. I said, well, I'll show you how to do that. Where others say, look, Rich, I want to cash out for 3 mil. I say, right, well, if you want to be worth 3 mil in X years' time, this is what your business needs to look like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need product density of X, you need processes of Y, you need to know what your acquisition costs are. You know, you need a business plan, a 3 to 5 year business plan. I sit down with a lot of clients, say, right, show me your business plan. And they go, oh, I said, have you got one? Yeah, I've got one. Well, can you show us it? And they go, well, it's in my head. I said, well,
Right.
yeah, it's in me. They got nothing written down. And I said, well,
And it's really interesting actually, because having Matt on the podcast, I asked him about the question, kind of saying, look, what was your plan? Because a lot of people that we have on the podcast, people might have fallen into the mortgage industry one way or another. Doesn't mean that they don't love it now, but they've fallen into it and they never really had a plan to grow to 10, 20 members of staff. So a lot of the answer when I asked them, was this your plan? A lot of people are, no, it's just naturally grown. Whereas with Matt, it was this your plan? He's like, yep, 100%. We had a 3 to 5 year business plan. Honey, you're his dad. Do you know what I mean? It's always going to be that way because you've taught him to do that. And he had a plan to say, right, we want to build it. Him and Warren, I believe it is.
Warren, great guy.
Sat down. This is the 10-year business plan. So it's great to have those goalposts set up from the very beginning.
Yeah. I just say to them, look, do you want to continue thinking, or do you want to cash your chips?
Mm-hmm.
So whichever one it is, we'll show you. And we just do. And he's brilliant because he follows process, you see.
Yeah, and that's building the process, isn't it? Now, you've helped loads and loads of different companies, and you've obviously got children, family, but what would be the thing that you are most proud of in a business sense, should we say?
I had to really think about this. There's two.
Okay.
One is Home of Choice, which was my baby with a couple of friends when I started off, and what it grew into, because when you set off with this, oh, we're going to dominate, we're going to be the biggest and we're the best, and it ended up as that. I was really proud of it.
Yeah.
And I was really proud of the brokers in Home of Choice, which is now First Complete and then Primus, and because they're good people, you know, and they look after clients to do proper jobs. And when we started winning all these accolades, and you know, providers would say to me, do you know what, Rich, your brokers are much better than everyone else. I said, well, I know. Of course they are. They're good people. You know, they're not just bloody hit and run. They do a proper job. So I was incredibly proud with when we got to the size we did. It was mint. That was the first one in business. The second one was Matthew and Warren. So it was when Heron started, where they shared a desk in the back of an estate agent's office next to the photocopier because they didn't have a pot to piss in. And building it from there to seeing them build this business that then two major businesses were fighting over, and they went with one, and that was an incredibly proud moment that I can see. My God, this kid who came into the industry age, I think he was 19 or 20, didn't have a clue, ends up building this multi-million-pound business that people are fighting over. That was really proud. I was gutted that Primus didn't buy it, and I'll never forgive them for that. But hey ho, you move on, don't you? But the fact that you can prove that somebody comes in as a little teenager, ends up
and can do it,
and has learned all the things that you thought he wasn't listening to, you know, Dale Carnegie and open questions and closed questions and power hours and working hard, to see it come to fruition. And I've seen with a few others that have sold as well. And you know, the biggest buzz I get is when I get a thank you text from the lads. And I still get them now. Tell Rich, I tried this and I did this and it worked. Thanks ever so much. And I just say, oh, you're welcome. Keep us in the loop. And it's nice. That's me buzz.
That's your buzz off it.
Like Lee's a special client of mine. I mean, talk about rags to riches. Jesus Christ. You know, it's like that Monty Python sketch, you know, where they're all trying to make out they had the hardest upbringing and all that, all right?
Yeah.
When he gets through to where he wants to be, I'll be proper chuffed, because that was against the odds. And it's
awesome. And to have so many nice, good success stories. Not just, and the nice thing is you've not spoken about success in a monetary value there. It's all about the people.
The money comes. If you're a good guy, well, first of all, this industry, you know, you don't get like a yellow card. If you get a red card, you don't come back in. You don't have a suspension. You're gone. You know, the FCA is unforgiving, like. And a lot of my friends in the industry who I'm having dinner with next week, they've been in it for 30 odd years. Well, you don't stay in this industry for 30 years if you're a wrong'un.
Yeah. You'll only last so long.
Yeah, and you have to give good advice. And I don't understand these people who don't give good advice. That's just wrong.
Trying to make a quick buck, I suppose.
But I'll tell you what bad advice is, and I will get on my soapbox here for the bloody London mortgage brokers, right? Bad advice is an unprotected debt. So you let all them customers off with a 300, 400, 500 grand mortgage, and you tell me that they didn't want protection. Garbage. Absolute garbage. Give it to somebody else who'll do a proper job. Because when they die, they'll phone you up and you have to say to them, you're really sorry that you didn't do a proper job. And that's what bugs me. But all my mates are big mortgage and protection. And they're good laugh as well.
And that's going to be my final question, actually, of the podcast, because we've gone through so much, and everybody listening, I'm sure, has got a notepad full of stuff to go and implement.
I hope so.
What is your biggest pet peeve in the industry then?
Is a peeve something that I don't like?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Bullshitters.
Okay, straight to the point.
Yeah, bullshitters do me head in. The ones that talk the talk, the ones that go on about, well, you should do this and you should do. They've never done it. I've been in the shittest houses in Newcastle trying to sell a £15 a month term insurance. Then we learned how to do mortgages when they introduced prop fees, right? I've been there and worn the t-shirt, and I just hope that, like, when I'm gone, that people realize that you need a human, you need interaction, and like, so back onto the question, negative people do me head in. It's like a plague. It's worse than COVID. They just do me head in. Like, you can't do that. I've tried that. It doesn't work. Well, shut up. Why don't you?
You've seen it work so many other times before.
Yeah. You know, if you can't lead a horse to, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink it. And I work with happy horses who like to have a drink. Literally, they do. And the thing is, my biggest peeve is people who don't do a proper job. There you go. And a proper job is more than a bloody mortgage. And if they say they're too busy to do the protection, bollocks. That's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. You know, when you die, there's a shitstorm happens. And if that shitstorm is a financial shitstorm and it's on one of the people's clients on this call, it's your fault, because you could have made sure there wasn't a shitstorm. And I'm begging you to do a proper job. Find out how to do a proper job. Cross the bridge from being order taker to order creator, and you'll sleep like a top every night. And make sure you have a laugh along the way.
But that's a great way to end the podcast. I think that you've said that quite a bit today, to become an order creator, not an order taker. I love that.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is put Richard's contact details in the notes. But what's your mobile number, Richard, if anybody does want to get in touch?
07849 843 190. Just drop us a text or a WhatsApp. I'm pretty busy at the moment, but you never know. The market evolves. And if you like what we've just gone through with Chris, thanks for listening. If you don't, well, it's just me.
No, I know a lot of people will be over the moon that we've got you on and taken so much from that episode. Richard, thank you so much for coming on, taking over an hour of your time today, because I know you're really busy. Really do appreciate it, and I'm sure the listeners got loads from it.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you. Cheers, Richard.